If we have not yet been acquainted, my name is Tara Mayapin. I'm from Division 28, and I'm this year's District Treasurer. I will be moderating the next session of the program, which is the Key Club Alumni Open Panel Discussion. The Alumni Panel will feature past PNW Key Club District officers to discuss their experiences in Key Club and how they leverage these experiences to prepare for their futures. We hope the panelists' words will inspire you to be even stronger Key Clubbers and leaders than you already are. Today, we are joined by 4 exceptional PNW Key Club alumni. From Grant County, Washington, we are joined by the 2017 to 2018 Lieutenant Governor of Division 58, McKenna Loutherback. McKenna currently attends the University of Alabama, majoring in industrial systems and minoring in marketing. We are also joined today by the 2015 to 2016 District Editor, 2016 to 2017 International Trustee, Jojo Saunders. Jojo is attending the University of Washington and is pursuing a major in informatics. Next, I would like to welcome 2017 to 2018 Lieutenant Governor of Division 38, 2017 to 2018 Kiwanis Family Relations Chair, and 2018 to 2019 District Governor Ingrid Bedford. Ingrid is majoring in neuroscience and minoring in bioethics and neural computation and engineering at the University of Washington. And finally, we are joined today by the 2018 to 2019 Lieutenant Governor of Division 32, 2019 to 2020 District Governor, and 2020 to 2021 Strategic Planning Committee Chair, Justin England. Justin will be attending the University of Washington this year to begin his college journey. He'll be majoring in political economy. Now that we've introduced these lovely people, let's move on to the panel discussion. So the first question I have for you all is, what do you think makes an effective Key Club officer or member?
Should I go first?
Anything works.
Okay, I'll go first. I think that the biggest part of being an effective Key Club officer or member is understanding what you want to get out of your experience, and not just doing things or joining Key Club because you feel like you have to for the college applications, or feeling like you have to because you need to be engaged in high school, but really understanding, do you want to come out of this with better leadership skills? Do you want to make some sort of impact in your community that's especially large? Attaching your own personal motives and your own personal goals right alongside your goals for your education and extracurriculars is so important. It keeps you motivated, it keeps you engaged, and I think that it provides you with a little bit of direction when you're trying to determine how you can best move forward in Key Club.
Definitely. Do any of the other panelists have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I can go after that. Hi, everybody. I would say, just to add on to that, I think one thing that's also very important, and it's mainly just like a general thing, is like empathy. Being an officer as a leader, whether it's in school, whether it's in a club, or just being a member, having empathy for everything that you continue to do, that will carry you a lot farther, because it's not necessarily about positions you hold, it's about the impact you make with people. And the first way you do that is through understanding how people feel and then adjusting what you're doing to help the people around you.
Yeah, I definitely agree with those points. I think like the classic things like time management, organization, being a good communicator, all of those basic skills are super important as both a member and an officer. Adding on to their additional points as well, I would say like the ability to make difficult decisions, the ability to really want to make change within your organization. So going into an officer position, thinking about how can I make my club a better environment, or going in as a member, thinking about how you can make your volunteer experience a better experience for everyone else.
And then the one thing I'd like to add on to that is, for me, it was all about how other people made me feel, how I made other people feel. So if you can work through the way you make people feel, you can connect with them on a totally different level. And I think that really increases your effectiveness, even if it may not be in the aspect of community service, but the way you make someone feel really influences how active they stay and how effective they become.
Definitely. Those are really, really like well thought out answers. The next question I have for you all is, have you continued to stay active in the Kiwanis family after high school?
So I'm a sophomore this year. I got connected to Key Club or Circle K on my campus my freshman year. But it's definitely a different environment. It's a different step. Key Club has a lot more energy than some Circle Ks do. So even connecting, I reached out to some of our Key Clubs in the area to get acquainted. And that was super effective for me.
Jojo, would you like to add?
Yeah, sure, why not? No, I was predominantly in Key Club, and then just stayed connected through like Brian, who's our district administrator. Brian has been a close personal mentor to me ever since I've been in Key Club. So through that, I kind of come back for Key Club things, but for the most part, like I'm not part of Circle K. I know that's really bad. I know all the Kiwanians are gonna be really mad at me now, but it's okay. It's kind of taking the lessons you learned here and then applying them to wherever you continue to go to. But yeah.
That's a good answer. Justin, Ingrid?
Yeah, so I'm also not a part of Circle K at UW either, but I've kind of directed my focus more towards volunteering for other organizations. And then also, I really enjoyed Key Club during my 4 years, so I still try to stay as connected with Key Club as possible, through Brian, through some of the lieutenant governors I currently know, and then also through my home club as well. It's been really cool to see like the underclassmen, so those that were freshmen or sophomores when I was like a junior or senior, and seeing them in leadership positions now. That's been really cool.
And then for me, I'm serving as the strategic planning committee chair this year. So I guess my continuing to stay active in the Kiwanis family is continuing to stay active in Key Club as an alumni leader. So that's kind of exciting. And then other than that, I'm thinking about joining Kiwanis in a few years. I really want to wait to make that decision until I'm settled down and know that I won't be moving around for school or anything, just because I don't want to have to switch clubs. But I'm looking forward to that time when that comes somewhere down the road.
It's really interesting how you've all had like very like somewhat similar but also quite different experiences with Key Club and the K family after high school. So that's very interesting to know about. My third question for you all is, what are you most proud of from your terms?
For me, it was, I think that my ultimate Key Club highlight actually came when I was a lieutenant governor. Chartering a club was a really impactful experience for me, just because I got to expose a new group of students to our organization, bring a new community into the impact sphere of Key Club. And so it was a project that I had to work like 6 months on. It was something that had a huge payout at the end. And it was something that I know is going to outlast my time in the Kiwanis family. It's going to be a club that is able to stick around for multiple years to come. So that was probably my proudest accomplishment from my time in Key Club.
For me, it's kind of a combination of different things. I was really fortunate to be on the district board for 2 years, and one of the most exciting things that happened during my 2 terms was during my time as lieutenant governor, we were discussing implementing Key Club days and also doing officer training conferences. So I kind of got to see the executive board during my term as lieutenant governor discuss changing those events and adding them. And then during my term as governor, I actually got to be the person to implement those new events. So we got to do Key Club days. That was super fun. We also implemented officer training conferences, which was super rewarding as well. One of my favorite things though, by far, was doing official visits as a lieutenant governor and as a district governor as well. Those were just really fun experiences to connect with members and to really kind of see what different Key Clubs do. So like we did one in Alaska, and that was by far probably one of the highlights of my term.
I'd say for me, I come from a super small division. I was Division 58. When I started my term, we had just my home club. That was it. So, like Justin said, I had the privilege of chartering another club, and they are super active now. So that is such a blessing to see. And even now in college, I'm still able to communicate with them and see all these projects that they're participating in, and it's just so exciting to see them grow.
For me, it was a while ago. I think the first thing off the bat, and this is not necessarily like an accolade or anything like that, but I remember from my editor term, one thing that I was proud of just at the end was literally just getting through it. I never thought I could be a district editor. I had no idea what I was doing. I never made a newsletter to save my life before becoming the district editor. So I had a lot of imposter syndrome going through it. And learning through all the mistakes and all of like the trials and tribulations of doing that was something that kind of opened my eyes, and it made me just proud of the fact that, you know, I had a lot of self-doubt, and going through it and getting through it meant a lot. And then as a trustee, a lot of the things that I look back onto when it comes to Key Club, and a lot of things that mean a lot to me, are all the connections that I made with people. When people ask, what do trustees do? A lot of the times we're really just working, whether it's emotional support, whether it's just guidance, whether it's just being a counsel for someone. I think those were always the most rewarding parts of the position that I was in. Yeah, I think it was always about the people.
Those are really great moments, and it's really nice to see how your legacies have kind of carried through since your terms have ended as Key Club officers. The next question I have for you all is, what would you do differently if you had the chance to?
I have an answer for this. I wish that I was more service oriented, actually. I think that, you know, the higher up you go in the organization, it's a lot easier to lose track of like what Key Club really means, and that it's a service organization. I wish that I took more time to give back to my community during my term, and I wish that I was more effective in using my platform to create a visible change in my community, a lasting service project, a lasting program, something that would, you know, impact more people outside of Key Club, because I think that I really focused my energy in making sure that our district and my division and my club was running as effectively as it could without really thinking of the external community first.
I agree with Justin completely. I think that's one of the most difficult parts about being a district officer is your time in Key Club almost changes to be more directed towards more administrative tasks in terms of managing the district board, planning events, and oftentimes service, unfortunately, almost kind of takes a step back. And so I definitely agree with that as well. Just making sure that, you know, being more involved within your home club. I would also say another thing that I wish I would have done differently as well is really focus on building connections with individual members in all different areas. As governor, a lot of times you're working directly with lieutenant governors, and then your lieutenant governors work with members in their clubs. And so sometimes it's kind of difficult to bridge that gap between the two. So I really wish I could have reached out more to members and gotten to know members in other areas, not just the areas that I visited during my term.
Okay, I can go. I made a lot of mistakes during both my terms, but I think for the most part, I wouldn't want to change any of them because I learned a lot from them. One thing that I will say that hopefully can be very tangible to all of you is understanding that sometimes when you want to make a difference, that does not mean you will see the difference when you are in term. Just to use a quick story, when I was on the international board, I was a part of a committee, and one of the things that we were trying to do was establish a scholarship. And they're not gonna know it. One of the people was really, really adamant about getting it out as fast as they could. And I wish I spoke up more, because our mentor was like, you have to play the long game. You have to see these things kind of come through. And I was like, no, we can just get it out. I get a call a year later from someone on the board saying that the scholarship failed because we rushed it out too far. And at first I was like, yeah, that makes sense. We didn't plan enough. But as I look back, I continue to see this entire trend of like, when organizations are trying to make change, when we are trying to make an impact with things, we feel like we have to be there to see it, because if we're not there, then we didn't do it. But you have to just let it go, and you have to just focus on what is the next step. And if I can't do it, who can I let that onto? So if that's another officer, if that's another member, the goal is always helping people. And if you focus too much on like being there when it's all come and done, you might be the reason why, or it might end up being one of the reasons why you don't see the thing you dreamed of coming true. So play the long game.
Yeah, and to echo like what JoJo said, during my term, we reestablished the Pacific Northwest Opportunities Fund Scholarship, and you don't see the end game, and that's a really difficult thing to like take a step back and realize that like I might be leaving a legacy, and I might not see it now, but it's totally going to benefit someone in the future. And I don't know if I'd change that. And it's so cool to reconnect with those people through that. And I don't think I'd change anything. I think it was definitely a privilege to come from such a small district or such a small division. It definitely brought some different perspective to the board, being so small, and yeah, I loved it. It was great. So
those are really wonderful lessons, and I think like we can all really learn from those, even if we're not at like a district level. I think even club officer level, and even members can really take away a lot of lessons from the things that you all would do differently in your terms. The next question I have for you all is, how has your Key Club experience assisted you in a professional and personal setting?
I can take this one. Try and start with it. Key Club is a great, like, it's literally a really, really great jumping off point. Whether it's going into college organizations, whether it's getting your first job, whether it's talking through college apps, being like the idea of like setting up events, the idea of organizing teams of people, like these are all things, like I'm looking for a job right now. So like these are all things people are trying to focus on. And if you can get those skills now, you're gonna be solid. Like for example, like I'm a part of one really big organization, which became kind of like my Key Club, and it's a professional organization. What I learned in Key Club helped get me into the door and kind of hold myself professionally enough to get into those organizations. So being cordial, knowing how to send an email, knowing how to run a coffee chat, those are all things that are super important. As an overcaffeinated college student can tell you, finding like, this is literally just an amazing jumping off point. Like where you are all now, you are in a very good spot.
So during my term, I unsuccessfully ran for the district governor office, and that was a huge learning curve for me. But I pulled so many skills from that, and it's totally shown up in my college life. And anytime I'm giving a presentation or writing a speech, it's just knowing your audience and knowing what to say and when to say it and how to present yourself. That's been so crucial for me. And I know that's really positively affected the way that I interview, the way that I portray myself and connect with people older than me, my age. It really teaches you to learn your audience, and learn how to present yourself. And like JoJo said, those coffee chats are crucial. And yeah, you don't grow unless you're willing to take a step out. So that was a really important lesson for me.
Yeah, exactly what everyone else said. Key Club is so unique in that it teaches you a variety of skills, all the way from being personable to other people to, knowing how to write an email, giving speeches, and like a variety, like doing applications, all that stuff. And I can honestly say like Key Club has been so helpful when I transitioned into college. Because in college, a lot of times it's an expectation that by the time you're in college, you should know how to write an email. And you also in college, a lot of clubs and organizations are application based, also interview based as well. And so having those strong interview skills is so helpful. I also know that when I was a senior in college, it was super helpful to have Key Club experience as well, with college interviews too, and just having experience talking to people, getting to know people, and just those really strong skills.
I think something that's in really high demand right now is people really like talking about group projects. It's something that happens a lot in school. It's something that you do in Key Club. And I think that having that tangible group work experience, as well as just the general Key Club experience, can be really, really helpful, whether you're applying to colleges, whether you're trying to start your own personal project in the community, or whether you're trying to find a new job. No matter what your position is in Key Club, basically, as long as you had a worthwhile term and you actually did something with your year, there are so many skills that you can take out of it and really highlight to present yourself in the best way possible. And I think personally, just because nobody said this yet, I think my best personal thing that I took out of Key Club is that I made some of my best friends. You make lasting relationships in Key Club and in other organizations that have similar emphasis on social and creating a positive working environment to give back to the community. Making friends is such a critical part of Key Club that has carried on for me, and it's something that I'm really grateful for, that isn't necessarily always in a professional setting.
Definitely. Those were all wonderful responses. I think, yeah, Key Club really does like last into the future. It doesn't just stop after high school. And as our attendees can clearly see, for you all, it has done exactly that. The next question I have for you all is, what knowledge have you gained through being involved in collegiate student organizations?
I'll pass this one to you guys since I'm going into freshman year.
Go Dogs. I can take this one or start with it. Being in like professional organizations, like when you get to college, there's different affinity groups. You can, like, if you want to go into design, there's going to be a design club. If you want to, like, for example, I'm in a professional business fraternity, and there's a bunch of different professional organizations. Like if you want to do pre-med, there's one. They're all like open major, co-ed. Sorry, it's very early for me at least. But throughout all those things, like one of the things that helps is that you get a lot of different mentors. And you get to see a lot of different things from very different perspectives. And it was through like collegiate student organizations that I found out that I don't want to be a doctor anymore. Like I came into UW thinking that I was going to be a doctor, and I thought that for about 7 years of my life. And like that, it was gone. And I was like, I'm having the biggest existential crisis of my life, and classes start tomorrow. So having a bunch of people that can guide you through and kind of teach you like how to navigate college or how to navigate your life. Like it doesn't have to be through college either. And I think like one of the biggest things, like I can talk from the professional standpoint of like doing things like coffee chats, getting to talk to people in the industry so you can learn much more about what the real world in the working world looks like. I will say, and you'll see a huge theme with all the answers that I'll provide, is that the people are always the biggest things that matter. Having a bunch of best friends, having people that you know always have your back, and that can guide you through, tell you what classes to take, tell you what classes not to take, or how to approach different things. You are not in any of these situations alone. You always have a group of people around you. So yeah, get involved as soon as you can. A big thing for all the people that will eventually be going to college in the next few years, a big statistic that gets thrown around a lot is that 30% of people that drop out from the first year is because they don't find a community in college. And it can feel incredibly scary to be alone in just a huge sea of people. So that's why you need to find things that you care about and find organizations that you can surround yourself in. And it's through there that you find the meaning and the enjoyment in places that can be incredibly big, like universities.
McKenna, do you want to go next?
Sure, I'll take it. I think the biggest thing that like hit me is that you need to go in with like very little expectations, because when you go in with an open mind, it's so easier to find your tribe. And like Jojo said, that's so crucial. I know that like my first semester of school, I was like, I don't know where I fit. And that's really hard. Like especially for me, I'm in Alabama and I come all the way from Washington State. I'm alone. Like I don't know anybody. And yeah, even the first week is so crucial. You got to meet people, and student organizations are the best way to do that. There's so many, there's something for everyone. It's just being willing to take a step out and really make that leap of faith. So that was really important for me.
Yeah, college is really unique in that you're kind of just thrown into this situation where suddenly you move towns, you don't really know a lot of people. So you're kind of tasked with finding organizations that you're passionate about, doing well in your classes, figuring out what you want to do career-wise, making friends. And so there's all these different buckets that you kind of need to fulfill. And it can be very overwhelming at first. I know that when I started at UW, it was actually kind of challenging to find a lot of organizations and clubs that I wanted to be a member of. And that's surprising because I think UW has over like 1,000 clubs, maybe over like 2,000 clubs, something crazy like that. And so you would think that there would be a majority of, or a huge amount of clubs I'd be interested in, but it was actually kind of difficult to figure out exactly what I wanted to do, what interests I wanted to pursue. And so that's kind of one thing to maneuver. And then once you figure out what you're interested in, then you can kind of bug it off of that. So for example, I'm a neuroscience major. So I was really interested in neuroscience, neurobiology. So I went to one neurobiology club meeting and I met some upperclassmen neuroscience students, and also some that were my age as well. And then we later formed our own nonprofit organization and started a chapter at UW just through that connection. Another thing as well is Key Club's really great in that you have a huge amount of support from adults within your community. So specifically within your club advisor and also your Kiwanis advisors as well. That's something that's a lot different than the college level. Is at the college level, it's really just a group of students. You don't have an adult to hold you accountable or to kind of help you along the way. So it is a lot different in that aspect as well.
That's all wonderful, wonderful advice. We will actually now be moving into a short open floor for a Q&A session. I encourage you all to unmute your mics, raise your virtual hands, or use the chat feature to ask these Key Club alumni any questions you may have. This section of our program will conclude at 11 a.m. when we will transition into our breakout sessions. So ask away. Linda Nguyen from Division 34.
Hi, I wanted to ask what officer positions everyone was in their first year.
I was a club treasurer.
I was a club historian.
I was a class representative.
I was a club secretary.
Another question. Erica from Division 28 asks, are there any good newsletter creation tips? I think this one's directed at JoJo.
I'm like 5 years out the game. I might not be the best person to ask, but you can ask my, oh boy, great granddaddy, Jessica. She's amazing at newsletters, and I'm sure she'll be putting out some amazing resources. The one thing I can say, just from a design perspective, is content always comes first, and then apply the design around it. Design is simply just a form of communication to get words to kind of like better understanding. And there's different ways you can use colors and photos. So yeah, content comes first.
That's a good answer. We also have another one for Jojo. What made Jojo not want to be a doctor anymore?
Yes. I'll make it quick. I like when we're in high school, when we're in middle school, when we're in elementary school, there's only such a broad range of spectrums of things that we are aware of. Like we think business person, we think lawyer, we think doctor. Both my parents were nurses, and I thought that was how I was going to be helping the world. I always loved design, which is why I kind of went into district editor, but I never really saw the connection to a career. And I remember I had a Kiwanian ask me what I wanted to do when I grew up. And I was like, oh, my parents want me to be a doctor. And she was like, well, what do you want to do? And that kind of took me for surprise. And I kind of sat there until I moved into UW. And I remember it was the second day that I was there. And just immediately I was like, this is what my parents want me to do. This isn't what I wanted to do. And I just rationalized that all my life. So it was in those organizations that I came to learn a lot more about like informatics and what that was. And that's where I kind of saw the roles of UX design, product design, and how that was a way to help people through something that I was much more passionate about. And I know that this is one of the last questions that we had in the like list, but like my biggest piece of advice to all of you is don't be afraid to change your mind. It doesn't make you a hypocrite. It doesn't make you fake. That is how you learn. And it is completely okay to say, hey, I didn't know what I was supposed to know, or I didn't think this was the right way, and turns out it is. It's completely okay to not know what you're gonna do. But yeah. I also English with blood, sorry.
No worries. A couple people want to know what your favorite Key Club memory is that can't help but make you smile, for everyone.
I'll go super quick. So mine was, I think, my junior or senior year of high school. But our high school put on this huge recruitment fair for clubs. And I remember our Key Club got like super hyped for it. Like we all wore our spirit gear. We were doing like spirit chants, all that stuff. And people were staring at us like we were like the strangest people in the world, because they were like, isn't this a service club? Like, why are they doing all these cheers? But that was just really fun because we were able to show our enthusiasm for our club and for our organization. And through that, we were able to recruit so many members to our first meeting.
I have a fun one. If you're from Division 32, you might remember this, but like last time when we were at DCon, the divisional yeehaw, that was pretty good.
Okay, I can do one. I think one of the favorite memories that I always continue to look back on is watching all of the divisional boards that I had the opportunity to work with as a trustee retire and see everything that they did come to fruition. Seeing the wave of stress kind of clear on them, and seeing them feel so proud of all the work that they did. It was something that like I was very fortunate and privileged to kind of be there with them along that journey. And just kind of seeing them have the opportunity to grow was really important. And it was just really heartwarming.
Yeah, the night we retired, that is like the craziest, like most emotional, like overwhelming, like you never think it's gonna be over, but then it's over. But I can't help but smile because everything that year led up to, and the end of the year, is just like, this is tangible. This is what we did. Like we left our mark. And now it's done, and it's like it's such an emotional experience because you're like, I don't want it to be over. But I was like, the night after that, I slept all night long. No more all-nighters. Like, yeah, it's overwhelming, and it's such a cool experience.
Definitely. Tanya Jane from Division 28, would you like to ask your question?
What was the most difficult thing about Key Club, like in general?
I pulled so many all-nighters. It's not even funny.
Yeah, but I'm talking about like in like the service projects and stuff, was there like anything like difficult about those?
Working with people can be very, like, I think a big thing, like group projects, like when it comes to doing all of that. I know that I just like people, but you'll come to work with different personality types, and it can be very difficult to work with people that you realize you clash with them. And it can feel very easy to kind of like butt heads. Sometimes like you have to put the main goal ahead and try to create like workarounds. And that's what a lot of like a lot of employers want to see. Like, can you work with people that think differently than you? Can you work with people that have different ways of approaching things? I know that you have all probably worked with a group that made you want to tear your hair out, still continues in college and just in life in general. But yeah, definitely working with people is, I think, the biggest thing, because this is a people organization at the end of the day. So how do you work with all the people around you?
Thanks.
Do any of the other panelists have anything to add to that?
I was just gonna say it takes a lot of courage to be like a bad cop when everybody wants you to be a good cop. Like when you are when you're put in a situation where you need to confront someone, where you need to, maybe reroute the team into a different direction. Having those uncomfortable conversations is ultimately going to be what pushes you forward, but it's always an uncomfortable conversation to try and start. And so taking that initiative and having that courage is something that I really continue to work on even past my time in Key Club. And it's a skill that takes a long time to learn.
All right. Thank you all so much for your incredibly insightful responses and advice. Unfortunately, this does conclude our Q&A session. Thank you to all of the alumni that joined us today. Can we give a little spirit moose ears for them? It was really wonderful having you all, and it was really wonderful getting to talk to you. We will now be moving into our breakout sessions.
I would now like to introduce Student Activation Coordinator Kellen Brewer to give his Thirst Project presentation. Kellen has previously spoken at District Convention and Key Club Days. He also assists Key Clubs in their efforts to fundraise for the Thirst Project all across the Pacific Northwest. I have worked with Kellen since my freshman year throughout my personal Thirst Project journey. He is an excellent friend and support system, and we appreciate all he has done to help Pacific Northwest Key Club successfully fundraise 6 wells in the past few years. Please wave your spirit hands for Kellen.
What's up, my friends? How are you? I am unmuted here. I'm not sure. I'm going to share my screen in a moment, but Kalia, did you pin my my sort of face and box here? Is that possible?
Yes,
Co-host now. Perfect. Oh, my friends, what a virtual party this is. Man, I love seeing the dancing and the happy faces, and shoot, as much as I wish we were in person, it is still fun to see the semblance of some sort of like community and intimacy, and such an honor to be here. Everyone, as Clea mentioned, my name is Kellen. I work full-time for Thirst Project. I've met some of you guys before. I see some new faces on here. I'm super excited to even have 10 to 15 minutes to chat with you guys, share a little bit about our work and some of the stuff you already know, and then kind of pull back the curtain and talk about some things that maybe you guys don't know. Funny enough, just a quick anecdote, in the spirit of 2020, this morning at my apartment complex, the power gave out. And I said to myself, this couldn't be more fitting. So I'm outside. If there's any background noise at any point, I apologize, but I'll make sure to mute it if it ever gets crazy loud. I'm gonna share my screen here. And what I need from you guys is a thumbs up when you can see my screen. Yeah, that's what I like to hear. Okay, cool. Let's jump into this. One sec, guys. Oh, wow. Let's go standard. Perfect. Still screens, everyone? It's clear there. Okay, it should be full screen now. Oh, jumping ahead a little bit. Cool. Well, I'm excited to chat with you guys. Man, I've been working with PNW Key Club for close to 3 years now, and it has been such a pleasure. Truly, your guys' district is unique in so many ways. And it's such an honor to just see the impact you guys have made, to have you be part of our mission now at Thirst Project. And I want to talk a little bit about our work at Thirst Project. Not too much, but I certainly want to give some context to any new faces and students on here that maybe don't know a lot about the district partner. And then I want to get into the reality that we're all facing right now, talk a little bit how we've adapted as an organization, and then sort of get into how we can collectively adapt going forward in the upcoming year. But first and foremost, just so you guys know a little bit about me and kind of my journey with Thirst Project, all the way back in 2012, when Thirst Project was just starting as an organization, it wasn't even a full nonprofit yet. It was just an initial movement of young people that had an idea. And back in 2012, our CEO and founder, Seth, came and spoke at my school. I was a shy, nervous sophomore in high school with no Key Club experience. I wasn't part of any service organizations, but I remember vividly him coming to my school, speaking about this movement, speaking about the water crisis, and I was just so captivated. But at that time, I didn't know what youth activation looked like. I didn't think that there were thousands of young people around the world just waiting to take action and be a part of movements like this. So it wasn't until 2017, I reconnected with Thirst Project. It was strange. I saw a logo online, and then I read all about the progress that the organization had made from 2012 up to 2017. And I remember just being blown away. I was like, this is so cool to hear that there are truly high school students, middle school students, college students all over the world that are stepping up to make a difference for the water crisis, working together, leading initiatives. So I became what was called a road warrior for Thirst Project, where for the entire year of 2017, I traveled all over the country. I ended up going to over 40 states, speaking about Thirst Project and the global water crisis, educating students about what's going on our planet right now, and then challenging them to take action and get more involved. And then in 2018, after that incredible year, I said, our work is not done yet. I work full-time for Thirst Project now. I uprooted, I moved to Los Angeles, and just took on this mission to see if we can change the world and what that's going to look like. And I share that story for a couple of reasons. One, just to give you guys some context on who I am and a little bit about me, but also just so you guys know, the work you're doing right now is laying the foundation for the work you're going to do in years and years to come. And for so many of the partners that you guys work with, there are opportunities after you graduate, internships in college, opportunities to work full-time for organizations or part-time. So there is totally work in the service field, which I think is really just an important kind of precursor to mention. But going forward, I don't want to spend too much time talking about the work that we do, but I want to give an overview. As you guys probably know by now, Thirst Project is the world's largest youth water organization. And really what that means is we are out to accomplish two things. The first thing is to empower young people. So to create what's called a socially conscious generation of young people. And then the second part of our mission is to end the global water crisis. Like, that is our focus right now. We want to empower young people to end the water crisis once and for all, ensure that everyone on our planet has access to safe, clean drinking water. And many of you know this, but the reality with the water crisis is over 600 million people on our planet still not having access to basic, safe, clean drinking water. And practically what that means is roughly 1 in every 13 people on our planet are still living without a resource that fundamentally we literally all need to survive. So it's a crazy reality to even just say that out loud. I've said it thousands of times, but nevertheless, it never gets old. I never get numb to the fact that there are communities all over the world drinking from swamps, rivers, ponds, relying on these open, unprotected water sources like the ones that you guys see here. Murky, dirty water. If we were walking down the street and we saw a puddle or a stream that was this color, not even for a second would we think about drinking that water. But the reality for so many communities around the world is that is the only readily available water source. And the tough reality with that too is not only is it the only readily available water source, but sometimes it's kilometers or miles away from communities, meaning that so much time goes into not only suffering from easily preventable waterborne diseases, but sometimes walking miles to open sources that aren't clean, that sometimes can take hours and hours, which prevents kids from being able to go to school. A lot of times it prevents women from being able to get jobs and work in their communities. And the cool thing is we are ending it. So we're speaking to students all over the world. Since 2008, we've been educating young people, interrupting school days, setting up assemblies, really just coming to young people and saying, hey, rarely do we see this on the news, but right now, so many people do not have access to clean water. And this isn't one of those issues that we have to wait until we're older to solve. We don't have to be, I don't know, more experienced. We don't need a background in hydrology. Truly, right now, we can end the water crisis, and we're proving that as an organization. We're showing that young people can 100% lead the charge. So it's a movement we're proud of. And just to showcase a little bit of our progress so far, this map kind of depicts the 13 countries that we've been active in since 2008. You can see some highlights on here. The nation which we're most active in, that so many of you guys hopefully are now familiar with, is the Kingdom of Eswatini here in Southern Africa, where we've funded so many water projects, over 300 projects now, and those numbers are still counting and climbing every single day. We're now active in 5 of these countries, but the majority of our work is the Kingdom of Eswatini. It's a place that we're so proud to be active in and working on, and about 1.3 million people live there. And we believe if we can start there, it can be a case study to take to the rest of the world and get more people to care and more people to take action. But what I really want to highlight is the work that we have collectively done in the last 2 years. Kalia mentioned it a little bit earlier, 6 freshwater wells funded by PNW Key Club District in the last 2 years, providing over 2,000 people with access to safe, clean water. That's what I'm talking about, spirit hands. Raising over $60,000. Like, I'm getting chills just thinking about it, because your district has raised more than any in a 2-year stretch. And I've been so just grateful to witness that progress, seeing Key Clubbers get involved, seeing district leaders, division leaders, setting up initiatives in their divisions, whether it's Key Club Days, whether it's Thirsty 30, whether it's Dances for Thirst Project. You guys have truly rallied to do incredible things. And we're about to enter a little bit of a crazy year. And one thing I want to address before we get into this is, how can we continue to grow and get better? We've been a partner for 2 years now. We're entering a 3rd year of working together. Last year, half of all PNW divisions took action for thirst projects, which means there's still half of your district of untapped potential of students that maybe don't know the full extent of the work that we do, or haven't had a platform to get inspired or get activated. So how can we increase our numbers? How can we get more students in PNW Key Club aware of Thirst Project, taking action, leading initiatives? It's not always about doing the absolute best and raising the absolute most. It's about doing your personal best, contributing what you can, doing what's attainable. And it's so important to mention. We'll talk a little bit about this later, but what I really wanted to focus on is the kind of elephant in the room, and that is 2020. And you could almost say the elephant in the room is the fact that we're not even all in the same room right now. We are in our own rooms, we're in our homes, we're at coffee shops, we're all over the place right now. And it's a little bit crazy. Like, we've transformed into a year where pretty much everything is now virtual. Like, virtual everything is the reality that we've come to accept as normalcy. There's way less in-person interaction. As much fun as it is to be able to vibe over webinars and Zoom meetings, the in-person interaction is definitely missed. And in the context of our work that we're doing at Thirst Project, man, clean water is more necessary than ever before. As we talk about the outbreak of a pandemic, the biggest solutions that we're immediately told is like wearing a mask, but washing your hands regularly, hydrating, taking care of your immune system. And naturally with that comes the reality that so many communities around the world, those over 600 million people that don't have access to clean water, like, clean water is needed more than ever before. And the last sort of point of 2020 that I want to emphasize is it's a chance to improve. Many see this as a barrier, a wall, a challenge that can't be overcome. But what I want to highlight in the next 5 to 10 minutes is how 2020 is really this opportunity for us to get better about the way that we do so many things. And I want to sort of share the context of how we started that. So how we took on that approach this year and thought about not how can we sort of do damage control and not be too affected, but how can we use this as a platform and an opportunity to do more? So what we did is, Thirst Project this year, we did really 2 things. We wanted to adapt and we wanted to pivot. So the way in which we adapted is we said, okay, we're going to have the same why. Our mission as an organization isn't going to change. It'll always be to create a socially conscious generation of young people who end the water crisis. But can we have a different how? The way in which we do things, the mechanisms that we use, can we change that? So truly what we did is we adapted in that sense in terms of our framework, and then we pivoted. So we've been doing things like what's happening right now, virtual presentations, and seeing that not always as a limiting factor, but sometimes as an opportunity where we get to speak with more students that have more times to be on their computers available, looking for things to be a part of and learning. So virtual presentations have become a huge part of our work. New programs that we've unveiled, online programs that replicate a lot of what we do in person. We didn't want to just remove those from our sort of like toolkit. We wanted to find ways to replicate those in the online space. And above all, it's been about more engagement. And I'll talk about this in a little bit, but continuing to find ways to engage a network and a support system that does so much for us. And that includes the Key Club world, and specifically you guys at PNW Key Club. And in terms of staying connected, I think there was a really important question to be asked, and that's how can we be there for our network and community amidst so much uncertainty? And I think what we've seen, maybe you guys have realized this too, if you subscribe or you have email accounts with different platforms or organizations, one of the first things that I saw was just like endless emails in my inbox of like, here's how we're responding to the outbreak of COVID-19. And it was almost like this cookie cutter email of everybody saying the same thing, how they're taking precautions, how they're being safe. But it kind of instilled a little bit of fear. And for us as an organization of just energy and enthusiasm and vibrance, we said the way we can be there for our network is displaying positivity, support, opportunity. And I think the reason I'm sharing this is because I think Key Club is really similar. And I think you guys are going to have opportunities to do the same things. But what I mean by positivity is being there to support and offer words of encouragement, reassurance, positive messages, whether it's on our social media accounts or with the students that we work with and are leading clubs on our behalf or initiatives in their communities. And in terms of support, really being there for students, for our seniors that just graduated and are going off into a crazy time of a first year of college amidst a global pandemic, being there for them, having virtual sessions for them to celebrate them, reassuring them that we care about them. And then opportunity is the third one that I want to highlight that a lot of times gets overlooked. Amidst the pandemic, a lot of times we think we have to halt our work, or people have other things to worry about, or we kind of say their no's for them. We assume that people don't want to be a part of initiatives, or for us, tackling a global water crisis, we had to understand the reality that many people in the United States have been affected by the pandemic, losing loved ones, being quarantined for long periods of time. But what you find is that providing people with opportunity gives them a sense of hope. The last thing we want right now is to feel our sense of worth go down. So providing opportunities to get involved with initiatives to help global change is really a way to power through, to adapt and pivot. And sort of moving on with Thirst Project, for us, this is what it looked like. Man, engaging students to the max, finding new ways to do this, supporting our teams around the world, not just the student networks, but also the communities in which we serve. We pivoted the way we implement water projects during this time. We started doing temporary projects as opposed to long projects so we could provide more people with access to clean water, doing study hall sessions, so educational opportunities for students in our network, having live streams and virtual fundraising events, and really, like I mentioned, a chance to do something. What we need more than ever is a sense of purpose and a sense of community and belonging. And one of the ways we achieve that is through service, is knowing that our voice, our actions truly matter and make a difference in the lives of others. And really these were kind of the three benchmarks. So we improved how we do things. We provided more than just clean water, and we continue to. Understanding that movements are going on right now, like the Black Lives Matter movement. We didn't want to be sort of tone deaf to that. We realized that that's a huge part of our national and international landscape. And we wanted to be an organization that empowers other movements, doesn't just focus on the global water crisis. And even supporting everyone. We see that we believe that the water crisis is the most pressing issue that we face today as a global community of human beings. But that doesn't mean that there aren't so many other initiatives, climate change, racial inequality, gender equality. And for us, we always want to make sure that we're taking a holistic approach to the way that we serve and the way that we approach things like fundraising. And I say all this to ask you guys a question. In the year ahead, it's going to look different. The elephant in the room is that school isn't the same. The leadership positions that you were elected into aren't the same. You're going to be challenged in ways that you've never been challenged before, and probably no Key Club leaders in the past have ever been challenged before in this way. but how can you continue to accomplish the same goals, the same mission that you guys uphold, but in a new way? I really want to stress this of adapting and pivoting, even if it means sort of changing your immediate mission and procedures temporarily. We still have such an opportunity this year. And some questions I just wanted to ask you guys is, man, how can you engage club members? Virtual meetings maybe are a little more difficult and require like attendance and actual participation, and it's a hard thing to force, but how can you find new ways to learn from that virtual platform? It's something that we've struggled with in the past anyways with clubs, is how can we keep all members engaged? So it's a challenge to you guys. How can you go even a step further knowing that we're in a virtual space? And how can you continue to fundraise virtually? Man, we rely so heavily on big events, walks for water, big in-person miracle minutes, things like decon. And if those are taken away, can we replicate those in the online space? Can we hone in on the aspects of it that are so desirable and so important and recreate that in a virtual space? How can we provide new learning opportunities? I think this is really big as leaders to realize, man, we want to learn from what's going on, and we also want to pass that learning on to the next leaders. So grooming leaders within your clubs to take on new opportunities, challenges, delegating. Obviously a big one that we've talked about is setting up virtual events. We all know we're living one right now. But live streams, webinars, and these are questions that I think are really important to ask and answer. But it's truly like, how can you collaborate and fundraise in similar ways? How can you guys support everyone and be sensitive to the times? I mean, the reality is right now, if I told you, oh, we're having a big Thirst Project fundraiser this month, the reality is Pacific Northwest Key Club is being severely affected by major wildfires right now. So many cities close to home are being affected by a major natural disaster. And if we were pushing something like fundraising for the international water crisis on communities that are, man, having loved ones losing homes in areas that are severely affected by a major serious local issue, it might come across as a little bit tone deaf, or it might be insensitive to the situation that's happening. And there's a difference between providing individuals with an opportunity to create change, like I talked about earlier, and then sort of being insensitive to what's happening with groups and communities. So you have to think about that this year, is how can we be strategic with when we fundraise, with how we position it, the language we use, the storytelling, and also providing more than just service. One thing that I've really realized throughout this time is so many people are struggling with so many different things. And sometimes the best thing you can do is pick up the phone and call someone, see how they're doing, check in on them, find ways to promote positive mental health and reassurance. And I think as club leaders, you guys embody such a tight group of people and such strong communities of students, but you never know when somebody's struggling with an issue or going through a personal challenge. So being there for each other, supporting each other, providing inclusive language is so, so important. And it's a challenge I have to you guys, being really sensitive to what's going on amidst these times. And learning and growing. This is a quote that I've been saying throughout all of this pandemic and social isolation, is that the biggest loss in the end is if we come out on the other side unchanged. And it's so, so true. It's like, how can we take what we've experienced in these last few months and not just be counting the days until things are back to quote unquote normal, but learning from what we're experiencing, understanding the reality that we're facing, finding ways to really just be there for other human beings and support them. And that entails maybe, yes, providing communities with access to clean water, but also just being good human beings and supporters of one another. And really it's about, what does this look like for you as Key Club members? How are you going to adapt the way in which you serve? Similar to how we had to adapt and pivot for Thirst Project, how can you find new ways to replicate what you guys have known and loved to do for so many years now? And as leaders, how can you be there for the direct reports that you have, the Key Club members that you oversee, or the presidents that you oversee in your division? Like, how can you adapt as leaders? And then truly just as supporters of Thirst Project, supporters of other movements, supporters of causes that you really care about. How can you adapt and find some semblance of not normalcy, but meaning to take action and purpose behind what you're doing amidst all of this craziness? And we're here to help. I always want to stress this. We at Thirst Project, one thing that I think separates our movement is that we're all about providing connections, being there for students to take action, and helping you guys realize that maybe we're an organization that you support, but we're also a group of people that want to connect, that want to give presentations like this, that want to sort of speak to your clubs or divisions. And if there's anything we can ever do, we're here to help. If you want to join the fight and you haven't already, one of the easiest things you can do to just stay up to date with all things Thirst Project is text the word thirst to 97779. I'll leave it up there for a second, but it's an easy way to get updates on our work, what's happening in the world of Thirst Project. But you can also reach out to me. And I know I didn't have time to give an hour-long presentation about all the ins and outs of Thirst Project, but if you guys ever have questions, if you want to start an initiative, if you need a list of our favorite virtual fundraising ideas, my email is right there. It's just kellen@thirstproject.org. I would love to set up calls, support you guys in initiatives, help you with fundraising. I know you have some big goals this year, and I know my time is up here. So one thing I wanted to do before I wrap up the Thirst Project world is pass it off to somebody you might know, a familiar face. Justin, if you're there, I would love for you to say a few words and sort of speak to your role as a speaker and the opportunity you have for Key Clubbers this year in PNW.
Hey guys, bet you thought you were done with me, but you're not. So I don't need to go in a whole spiel about me and my Key Club history and everything, because you guys heard about that earlier. But essentially, Kalia and I guess Ingrid in the past too, as a governor who's worked with the Thirst Project before, have been really heavily involved in some of these programs that Thirst Project has put on. We've participated in some of their fundraising campaigns. We've worked with them in the Legacy Summit and in a variety of other settings. And so something that I really enjoyed doing during my time in Key Club, whether I was a club or district officer, is I really enjoyed speaking with people, helping educate them on Key Club related issues, and I guess the Thirst Project by association as well. And so naturally, I decided to take the step up this year, continue working on my passion with the water crisis and with the Thirst Project, and serve as a Thirst Project ambassador. Woo! So that's pretty exciting. But what is a Thirst Project ambassador? So essentially, Thirst Project this year started a new program called the Trailblazer program, which is here to replace their Road Warrior program. And so it's essentially the same thing. We're around the country, we're giving presentations to student groups, to classrooms, and people of, all different sorts of backgrounds. But the key difference is that instead of doing the road trip, we're stationed in one spot for the entire year. And so my area, I'm mainly focusing on the state of Washington, but kind of by association, I've taken on a lot of the Pacific Northwest District Key Clubs as well. So if you're in other parts of the district too, then I'll be your ambassador for the Thirst Project. So essentially, if you ever want a presentation to come into your school, whether that's a classroom or a Key Club meeting or something else, then I'm probably going to be your go-to guy. I think that one of the really compelling things about Thirst Project for PNW Key Club is just its resonance, if that's a word, the way that it resonates with Key Clubbers. It has a really compelling mission in ending the water crisis. It's an actionable issue that we can take, precautions to help solve. It is an organization where you can see the impact of the money that you're donating and the time that you're spending on it. It's not just something where you're donating money into this void, getting a thank you back, and then being like, okay, what exactly happened there? You can see the impact that you're having on communities globally. And then also, it's an organization that's specifically meant for young people. It's run by young people. It's aimed toward activating young people. And that's something that makes Thirst Project so attractive for us at the district level, is that it's an organization that's for us. Over the last 3 years, Kellen kind of touched on this, we've raised over $60,000 for various communities in the Kingdom of Eswatini. We've funded wells in the Moyeni and Malalini regions, which has been a super cool project. And I'm really looking forward to seeing the impact that PNW Key Club is going to be able to have throughout this next year, whether that's in creating new awareness events or fundraising, or working with the resources that already exist at the district level to try something new. And so before I leave you today, I just wanted to quickly plug myself in case you're someone who wants to have a presentation on the Thirst Project at your club meeting, or just in your classroom in general, as I've said. Our school tour lasts the entire year. I'm contracted with the Thirst Project through July of next year. So entire school year I'll be here. feel free to reach out to me on social media or at my Thirst Project email, justin@thirstproject.org. I'll drop it in the chat. And I'd love to help schedule a presentation for you if your club is interested in it. It's about 30 minutes, it's multimedia. We have all different sorts of fun things in there. And if you haven't had a Thirst Project presentation at your school before, I'd really encourage you to look into it. But anyway, so that's my bit. I think that's the last time you're gonna see me today, but really nice seeing all of you guys and talking with you today. Thank you.
That was truly an inspiring presentation from Kellen Brewer and Justin England. We'll now be moving into our Thirst Project open panel discussion. My name is Alice Lee. I'm serving as your district secretary, and I met some of you guys through the public speaking workshop, and I'll be moderating today's discussion. The Thirst Project Student Leaders Open Panel Discussion aims to showcase members in your area that have contributed largely to the Thirst Project, and we hope this discussion will serve as inspiration for you to grow your own leadership skills and better your communities. With that, I'd like to offer a warm welcome and introduce today's panelists. From Federal Way High School in Division 33, we have McKinley Wood, who's currently serving as their Key Club president. Federal Way High School has raised over $800 so far, half of which comes from their school's virtual Thirsty 30 fundraiser. Next comes Alex Huynh from Henry M. Jackson High School in Division 21, who is also serving as their Key Club president. Jackson High School has raised over $1,000 for the Thirst Project so far through fundraisers such as their spring garage sale. Representing Division 30, we have Elena Robison, who currently serves as Division 30's Lieutenant Governor and attends Bonnie Lake High School. Puyallup High School and Rogers High School, also in Division 30, have both raised over $1,000 as part of which can be attributed to Division 30's Skate for Swazi fundraiser. On behalf of the PNW's efforts towards the Thirst Project, we have Alyssa Hulsey from Division 33, who serves as our District Project Committee Chair, and District Governor Kalia Thornton from Division 48. Kalia has raised over $10,000 towards the Thirst Project throughout her high school career and is a recipient of the Thirst Project Servant Leadership Award that was presented at the Thirst Legacy Summit in July. Please give our panelists a warm welcome in the chat and give them your spirit fingers. Panelists, you may unmute your microphones when you speak and participate freely in answering the questions. Our first question is, why did you decide to become a student leader for the Thirst Project? And fittingly, I'll have Kalia start by answering this question.
So similar to why I joined Key Club, I joined the Thirst Project effort because I wanted to connect with an organization and a movement outside of community. Given where I live in a smaller town, not necessarily in a big city, and I realized through Key Club and Thirst Project that they provide so many opportunities to connect with others around the world globally and also make a real effort to change the world. And I really resonated with the Thirst Project just because of how well they work with young people.
I think it'd be nice to have McKinley answer this question as well.
Oops. I decided to become a student leader for the Thirst Project because when it was introduced to me freshman year through, actually at DCON, my freshman year at DCON, I found myself really moved and driven kind of to make a change, and that passion, you know, it's just grown kind of throughout my Key Club years. Yeah, and like Kalia, I really resonated with just like the whole movement and everything that I do for the world.
We'll move on to our next question, which is, what is one of your fondest fundraising moments? And I'll open this to all of our panelists.
I can start. I would say my fondest fundraising memory is definitely from the Taste of Coeur d'Alene. As mentioned in my slides, it was one of the most successful fundraisers that my Key Club has participated in because we were able to connect with so many different community members at a summer festival with over 50,000 people. And I really just enjoyed having those one-on-one conversations with people explaining the global water crisis and our efforts.
I can go next for this one. So one of my fondest fundraising memories has been pretty much just every bake sale my club has been able to host. We do at least one every year. I know McKinley, she coordinated one just this past July. But you know, every year it's like just a ton of Key Club members from our club who just show up, and we just sit in like a little booth for like 3 to 8 hours at a time at our local farmers market, and it's just a really great experience because we get to talk to a lot of people in our community about Thirst Project and kind of just about why we're fundraising, and it's just a really great bonding experience for our members because it's like we're able to be unified in the same cause and then learn more about our community at the same time.
We haven't heard from Alex or Elena yet. Either of you guys can share if you'd like.
Yeah, I can go. So a really fond memory I had while fundraising was during the garage sale. I had helped out baking food with a close friend of mine that we were able to sell at the garage sale, and there were a lot of people that I did not expect wanted to have the stuff that we've made, and because of that, we made half of our profits were from just baking, and all of them were just donations, and they donated way more than I could have imagined. So it was a really fond memory of mine that I really loved, and I would love to have done it again.
So mine fondest memory wasn't actually very successful, but it was really fun. We tried to do a miracle minute at our lunch during the school year, and it was really fun because it was really fun, like running around all the lunch tables, and everyone was really confused about what was going on. But it wasn't very successful. So if you do choose to do that, advertise it a lot more than we did, so people aren't confused.
That's some great advice. McKinley, do you have a moment to share as well?
Yeah, mine is actually kind of the same as Alyssa's, but I know the night before our bake sale, actually probably the first one that we ever had, when we were like fresh out of decon, like super like motivated and like wanting to make a change. I think me, Alyssa, and a few other friends actually, we kind of like stayed up all night and just baked like a variety of baked goods like brownies and stuff. And so yeah, we were just like, we were excited and we wanted to like do as much as we could kind of as new members. So yeah, and then we had to wake up like at 7 a.m. the next morning, but we were all motivated and wanting to help make a change.
The next question is, how have you adapted to remote and virtual fundraising? Any one of our panelists can take this one.
I can start with this one. So, kind of on like a more district perspective on this, pretty much every single club, if not every single club, has, been out of school pretty much since the start of the term. So, kicking off fundraising has really had to be like a virtual task that none of us have really faced before. But, my committee has put out like a fundraising guide. We're working on another one coming up here soon, trying to, provide a lot of opportunities for clubs to feel equipped to fundraise virtually. And I feel like, with our ongoing bingo campaign happening right now, is just kind of an example of how social media is like a really valuable resource in connecting people and, working with people and fundraising with people that you might not have had the opportunity to fundraise with, if circumstances were, I guess, regular. So yeah, our whole district kind of is like adapting to that and, coming up with different ways to fundraise. And I feel like that has been a really valuable experience.
Absolutely, I can continue with that. I think we have a lot of good resources that are on the issue and are released in the biweekly updates for fundraising ideas, as well as videos that we are going to showcase later today that are all uploaded to the YouTube. And I think during your virtual meetings, if you show those, it will definitely motivate people to help fundraise for the Thirst Project. And I think as for your club adapting, it just really depends on the means that you have to host virtual meetings, or if you can host socially distanced events and fundraisers, then you can do that as well. And I would recommend working with your school administrative team and your student council and leadership, because similarly, they will be transitioning to the virtual world and seeing what opportunities they have available, and then utilizing that platform to host something such as a virtual Thirsty 30, or taking any previous fundraiser that you've hosted before, like a Miracle Minute, and transitioning it virtually, similar to what we are going to be doing later today.
In a similar vein, what advice can any of you guys panelists give to those who want to be more involved with the Thirst Project?
I would say to do your research, because when you learn more about it, you become more passionate about it. At least I definitely did. And then taking that research and then giving it and reporting on it to your club or at class, or just even your friends, and then getting more people to be more involved, and then just kind of spreading the word about what's going on and what the Thirst Project is and what it's about will just really help you to learn more and you to be more motivated along with people around you.
Alex, McKinley, do you guys have any advice on that as well?
Yeah, so kind of restating that, I would definitely say the biggest thing is educate yourself, so then you can go on and educate others. And that's kind of a huge thing that I've learned. Like at different fundraisers where maybe people don't know as much, like giving like a brief explanation or like even statistics will definitely motivate people to donate more, and kind of it'll resonate a lot with them, and they can sympathize with the whole project.
Yeah, I would like to agree with that. I think exposure and knowing everything about Thirst Project is super important. And I think, well, personally for me, when I was fundraising for Thirst Project, I think the more and more you get into it, the more invested you become, and it just gives you a drive to want to continue helping a big community.
Continuing on, how can Key Clubbers motivate others to support the Thirst Project? And it would be great if every panelist could answer this question.
I would say the best way to motivate other Key Clubbers is to collaborate with as many other organizations, student organizations within your school in the community as possible. I've realized the more people that you have involved in your campaign, the greater success it is. So even if you work with people such as from DECA or from student council or leadership or any other club in your school, it will not only maybe motivate them to join Key Club, but also help you with your cause. And then also working with local businesses, local community sponsors such as your Kiwanis Club will really help you have more resources and opportunities to fundraise for the Thirst Project.
I can go next for this one. So I think the two biggest things that I've seen that are really good at motivating people are education and incentives. So kind of to go back to the point of what everybody's been talking about, educating yourself, and then throughout like events, having opportunities for people who participate and people who not necessarily like participate but come in contact with your event can easily have resources to learn themselves, because that just creates a ton of different connections. It can be a huge motivator for people to like join the cause if they're not necessarily already participating. And then incentives are a really good way to like personally motivate people, like introducing things like prizes and friendly competition can really get people externally motivated to work towards not only the cause, but also towards like a more like materialistic prize. So for example, like with our Thirst Project Bingo, we have several different incentives happening for that, and I think that's been a huge part of our success at motivating people, and then also bringing in more donations and engagement.
I think that like leading by example is a really big one, because I especially noticed with like the Thirst Project bingo that like I started doing it, and as lieutenant governor, then I noticed that some of my presidents were doing it, and then I noticed that then other officers in the same club were doing it, and then members were doing it. So it's kind of like a huge like chain reaction, because people see what you're doing even if you don't realize it, and they'll follow you, because if you're a leader, they'll follow you. And so just leading by example and doing what you want others to be doing is a great way to motivate others.
Alex or McKinley, you guys can go next.
Yeah, I can go. So there's not much other than that I can think of, but I think those three are definitely towards the top. I had education and incentive like Alyssa, but more in depth to incentive. I know last year, my club, when we were in person, we had like punch cards that we made, where you could get different punches for doing certain things, and fundraising was one of those. And in reward, you got like, you could get a different rewards like boba or like candy and stuff like that. And I know that was a big thing for our club. And then friendly competitions like between classes, or just like grade level. That's something that we've been wanting to try out as well. Yeah.
I think in order to motivate others to support your goals, I think you need to be able to support or motivate yourself. And in order to do that, you should try to reach out to a community that you're close to. So I like to give props to our sponsoring Kiwanis Club. They are a huge help. They're a great resource to find fundraisers, help out, and just give a positive impact on yourself. And if you're able to sort of create a bandwagon and bring that enthusiasm to outside communities, and reach out to other people, I think you'll be able to allow people to know more about Thirst Project and be able to help support you in any way possible.
Those are all such great answers, and thank goodness you plugged Kiwanis, because they're a fantastic resource that I think Key Clubs often neglect to use. We'll now move into an open Q&A session, so feel free to drop your questions in the chat and address them to a panelist if you'd like, and we will read them out to be answered. Linda has her hand raised. You may unmute yourself and ask your question.
I would like to ask, what motivated everyone here to start getting involved more in the Thirst Project?
We can have Alyssa answer that one. So what motivated you to be more involved with the Thirst Project?
Yeah, so I think, speaking again from my experience as a committee chair, my club and division weren't super involved previously, when I was an officer and a member in my club, with fundraising for Thirst Project. So, once I became a part of district board, I learned, there was a position to serve more connected to Thirst Project. And I wasn't, previously very knowledgeable or engaged in that. And I really wanted to try and have, a greater role in participating in something bigger than myself, which I think is a really important part of what Key Club is. So, obviously I applied for that position, and I feel like that was a really huge motivator in more than one way, to try and get involved in the Thirst Project. And even just some like simple research, after I got the position and had to, become obviously a lot more involved than I've been previously, was another just great way that I feel like I was able to really connect myself into the Thirst Project community, and just learn more about, what it is and why it was so important to be involved.
To add to that, I really enjoyed how the Thirst Project had such a large network and global outreach, and I felt like their community was very close-knit, similar to Key Club, had the same values as Key Club, and I knew that I would be comfortable serving with the Thirst Project and helping them reach their goals because they have such an inspiring cause.
Actually, similar to that, in that sort of vein, what is the best way to get the community outside of Key Club and Kiwanis involved in Thirst Project fundraisers?
I can start. My Key Club has had success with reaching out to local businesses, even though I know that's a lot of what normal or other extracurriculars tend to do when they need donations is reach businesses. But rather than simply asking for donations, it's more about asking for their support, educating them on the Thirst Project, because it is a community effort. And so if they're aware of the cause, then maybe later on they will inspire others to support them. And I think working with the businesses, working with the other community organizations, similar to that, my Key Club gave a presentation at the Human Rights Education Institute, our local human rights organization, because water is a human right, and because both of our values were related, we were able to connect with each other and join our networks.
I'll have Alex answer this next one, and that is, what life lessons have Key Club taught you that you will remember forever?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
What life lessons have Key Club taught you that you will remember forever?
Okay, so before I even joined Key Club, I was the most introverted, the most shy person ever. I would never go out. I would just stay indoors, watch TV, play video games, do all that sorts of stuff. And it wasn't until my friend just kind of forced me to go out and join Key Club. He said it's a volunteering thing. You can go make some new friends, do some fun things, volunteer while you're at it. And he decided to make me, he decided to have a competition with me to see who can volunteer the most. And because of that, I have been able to meet so many people that have affected my life. And because of them, they inspired me to become something bigger in my community. That's why I decided to run for president of my Key Club. And so basically, Key Club taught me to open up more and just go out and meet new people and just try to put myself out there for the community and do something more than I should have been.
Our district administrator, Brian, is asking the entire panel, what inspires you the most to do fundraising for the Thirst Project? We can have McKinley start.
Yeah, so definitely other than the education aspect, like just knowing that like some people they don't have access to this human right and we do, and like I feel kind of a need to help them, and like because I have the resources to and like the position to like make a change and do something. Also kind of seeing like the videos of the Thirst Project that have been made, of everything that PNW has done. That's like a huge thing. Like I get like emotional. Yeah.
I can go next. I really like that it's a global organization, and because a lot of Key Club focuses on like community service and just your immediate area, and I really like that the Thirst Project gives us the opportunity to help people like on a bigger scale and help people who aren't in our community and people who really do need our help because of the positions that we have, and just so that you're able to help someone that you're never ever going to be able to meet, but you're changing their life. And I just think that's really cool, and I love that.
Would anyone else like to share?
Yeah, so kind of adding to what Elena and McKinley have both said, I feel like for me, my biggest motivator is, coming to the realization that, like individually you can make an impact. And I feel like a lot of times people feel like, when they just do service projects for Key Club, they don't necessarily know like what they're really doing and they can't really see the impacts that they're making. And I feel like, especially like McKinley was talking about, like seeing videos of, how the PNW has really helped, and the magnitude of that impact has really, motivated me personally to try, and do as much as I can for fundraising for Thirst Project and being active in the community.
I'm seeing a lot of questions here in the chat about virtual fundraising, advice for how to host your online fundraisers, what kind of ideas and fundraisers should we think about in remote times because of COVID. And I think Kellen has something to say on that, so I'll plug him here.
Plug me in. I'm here still. Sorry, I turned my camera off and forgot. First and foremost, you guys are freaking legends. This is so cool to hear. I shouldn't have even been the presenter. Like, you guys could have just taken it and speak on behalf of Thirst Project to such a high degree. This has been amazing. All of you panelists, like, incredible job. I want to share a file with you guys. I'm actually going to share two, but the first one is very important. You're going to see it in a chat in the chat in a moment, and it's a list of our favorite virtual fundraising ideas. It should just pop up. Anyone can download it. That is for you. So it's got categorized lists. We just finished it recently. We're trying to come together and create like essentially just a list of fun things you could do in the virtual space. These are brainstorming ideas. Take them, run with them, amend them, mold them. But yeah, if you got that, you should be able to download it. There's one more file I want to share, and don't watch it right now. Maybe the next time there's a break, but another really cool file. I just got this yesterday. Our country director in the Kingdom of Eswatini, his name is Cebu. And speaking of videos, it just made me think about it. And it's a thank you video from Cebu personally. It's super low quality. It was filmed on like an old device in the Kingdom of Eswatini, but it's him at the site of a water project, thanking PNW Key Club, and hopefully can offer a little bit more reassurance. And like you guys have talked about, sometimes the hardest thing is just connecting to the issue because it's far away. And hopefully a little bit of inspiration from Cebu can help kind of energize you and realize how serious and real this is and how you guys are tackling a major international issue. So two files for you, but that virtual fundraising ideas one will be great for you guys to use. And thank you all again, panelists, such a good job.
I think our last question is going to be, I'm scrolling through the questions right now. Our question from Kelsey is, what is the aspect of Thirst Project that makes you the most passionate? And we'll have everyone answer this before we move along.
I really like how Thirst Project focuses on working with students, especially because I feel like at times young people really don't know how to have an impact on the world, even though they want to. And Thirst Project provides young people with that opportunity to do so. And so that's what's really inspired me to continue working with the organization, because I know that they're able to provide me with those opportunities to make an impact that's tangible and will be lasting.
Like I said earlier, it's just like being able to help someone that I'll never be able to actually meet, but just knowing that $25 gives someone clean water for life, and knowing that every single $25 that I donate or our whole division donates will give someone not only just clean water, but it gives them an education. It gives them the ability to be free from like all these horrible diseases that they get from this unclean water. But it just gives them such like an opportunity to live a better life, and just knowing that it's only $25. And I think that's just amazing, and I love it.
Can we get Alex or Alyssa to go next?
Yeah, I can go. So I think it's really amazing to have students or anyone in general to be able to help someone that's practically across the world. And it really makes me feel empathetic and compassion towards people who don't have available clean water, so that we have at least. So in order to feel that I can help them by donating money or help fundraising to those people, I think makes me feel really motivated and passionate to help in any way I can.
And lastly, Alyssa.
Yeah, so to kind of, again, reiterate all of these points, I feel like, this just, I don't even have any words for it, but like, it's just such an eye-opening, and I would almost say like life-changing experience, to be able to have this different perspective on just the world, because so many people, don't have the same privileges that we do. And I feel like it's a really important thing to realize that. And then not only just, to realize it, but to, take action, because, again, we have the power to make a change. And I feel like that's really important and motivating for, I feel like, as everyone said the same thing. So I feel like, it's a really important experience for everyone to have. And I just want to, keep doing what I can and help other people do what they can to, be part of this and, just help make an impact, because it's very possible, and it's something that we can all do.
And on that incredibly high note, I'd like to close out this question and answer session today, because that's all the time we have. I'd like to thank our student leaders for participating in today's panel, as well as Kellen Brewer. We hope you all take away new inspiration and use it to support the Thirst Project. I'll now pass off the mic to Kalia to introduce our Thirst Project service activity.